So I went ahead and I did everything with the job application. I guess not everything. I've created the job application, a very generic one. And I guess the the rule here is don't quit, because I was doing the application, 6 page application. I got to page 5, creating the application, and I was just like, I just need to take a break. And I said, well, let me see how much further I have to go. And actually, I was on page 5, and I didn't even realize, and I thought I had 3 more pages to go. So I have the 6 page application, and what I would recommend is that if you create the application yourself, which is what I suggest that you do, you can use templates, or you can use one that you've seen that's probably off of a template, and then add your own things that you've seen or heard. I try to be thorough as possible. The one thing that the application that I use as a template didn't include was the killer question always: have you ever been convicted of a crime other than a minor traffic violation? And that's a hard question, because it asks, have you ever, regardless of if it's been appealed or whatever, have you ever? And that's a tricky question I would place on there, to be, we'll discuss upon serious consideration. So I would place that, where would I place that? Let's see here. Let me go through the application that I have, so you'll know the major parts, and I'm sure most of you already do. Um, okay, whenever you're doing an employment application, you do want to indeed complete everything in entirety. You want to show that that you're addressing every question that they ask. Employer information, employee information is what it should be. But I put employer because, of course, it's always going to be me, and I'm using different. But employer information, you're going to list the employer's legal name, address, city, state, zip, and phone number. And of course, I have some other documents that I created, completely on my own without a template, that are going to address all that, because you want to have the application first: city, state, zip, and phone. Um, and then the blurb about equal opportunity, then the applicant information, which is your information. You're going to put your full name, your address. And I remember when I used to do full name, I used to put first, middle, and last, because I was just such a good custodian. Um, but anyways, the number of years at your address, your day phone, your evening phone, your mobile phone, social security number, your driver's license or state ID number. Let's change that to state ID number. Emergency contact, who should be contacted if you are involved in an emergency. You're going to list your contact name, the relationship to you, address, city, state, zip, and again, your day and evening phone numbers. And I'm going to say about job applications, you want to answer each and every one, but once again, you're putting your trust in the fact that these employers are scrupulous. Not all of them are, and sometimes, with a lot of little telemarketing jobs or jobs where you have individuals that work there that are that don't have good intentions, you're putting all your information, your family, your friends, and everything, and they could be used for the wrong purposes. Um, there are some companies, I believe, that are on the lower end, like the little telemarketing places that do take your information. They gather all these applications, and if they choose to, they'll resell them, because they're all about making money. And they know that a lot of these low end jobs, that you don't have the time or resources to fight stuff like that or investigate it. So just be leery. Just because somebody's an employer does not mean that they are of good repute. And just because you haven't heard anything bad about them doesn't mean that they're of good repute. On the same hand, just because you've heard bad things doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. You have to determine for your own. You have to have your own set standards and moral values, and observe and measure that company and its representatives according to that. The job position you applied for, are you looking for full-time or part-time? Your desired salary, and uh, let me do this. I just want to make it so you can circle as opposed to having to write it out. Um, salary desired, and then you're gonna put X amount per hour, per job, per year, whatever. Who referred you to the company? Do you have any friends or relatives who work there? If yes, please list them. Have you ever applied to the company before? Oh, I was looking for where to place. Are you at least 18 years old? And I think this is where I would place the question, the legal question. And I am gonna place it right here. Have you ever been convicted of any crime? And then I'm gonna put yes, no, because some of them may get just like that where they want you to put yes or no. If so, please state the. Please give details. Please state the reason. Provide an explanation. And that's usually what they say. Now, I haven't seen this on previous applications, but there's a question here: how will you get to work? And a lot of employers ask that because some of the jobs require. And I always thought it was kind of a weird question. If it's a job that doesn't require you to drive, I would think that's illegal because that's discrimination. But a lot of them do ask that because, just to be honest, the world is not perfect. And sometimes people ask that because they don't want people on public transportation working at their company. They have a preconception. And some of it is kind of valid, some of it's kind of not. Some of them have a preconception that if you take public transportation, which may or may not be true, that by the time you get to work and going through, you're drained of your energy. So by the time you get there, you're not a very positive asset to the company. Whereas a person that has his own transportation, surrounded by their music and their things that get them going. And then other reasons that they ask is that again, either job requires it or they're seeing if they could make use of you. In addition, that's an additional asset that could be used if you do have your own transportation and that type of thing. I generally don't like that question, so I would answer it, but only if it applies to the job. And if it applies to the job and I don't have my own transportation, I would not apply anyhow. But anyway, so after the are you at least 18 years old, the next question, have you ever been convicted of any crime? If so, please provide a brief explanation. And I put the yes or no box there because, some will ask you to put yes or no. And for this one, I've been advised that you can leave that blank and just place you will discuss upon serious consideration. 10, how will you get to work? Are you willing to work? 11, are you willing to work any shift, including nights and weekends? Yes or no? If no, please state any limitations. 12, if applicable, are you available to work overtime? 13, if you are offered employment, when will you be available to begin work? Florida's an at-will state, but some people still believe that, they want to see that you're not like scrambling for a job, so they want to see that you put 2 weeks out. And then some jobs want you to be able to start right then and there because they're those types of jobs. Are you able to perform the essential functions of the job position you seek with or without reasonable accommodation? That's a trick question because they're saying with accommodation, or if they choose not to accommodate you, will you be able to perform it? And it says, what reasonable accommodation, if any, would you request? And so this is letting them know when they ask you what type of accommodation you're requesting, they want to make sure, I'm hoping, that they're not discriminating against you because of a disability. If it's just something of personal preference, is different. 16, applicant skills. List any skills that may be useful for the job you're seeking. Enter the number of years of experience, and circle the number which corresponds to your ability for each particular skill. 1 represents poor ability, while 5 represents exceptional ability. I can't imagine somebody placing something that they would score a 1 on. The template only had 2. I placed 5, and I would do from the greatest to lowest. Because you always need good communication skills and good sales and service skills are always good administrative skills and good computer skills are all things that you're going to need at any job. So that's three right there. Applicant employment history. List your current or most recent employment first. Please list all jobs, including self-employment and military service, which you have held, beginning with the most recent, and list any and explain any gaps in employment. If additional space is needed, continue on the back page of the application. Now, I'm going to tell you, for me, like I said, I'm 40 years old. The last 10 years of my life, I've been working since I was 14 years old, and I'm now 40. The last 10 years of my life, the work has been very sporadic, and it has been so many different types of jobs. It would make your eyes whirl. Every type of job you can imagine. So for me, I just put temporary and various interests, and I list the job skills that I had that relate to the job. And then I'll put in the description, we'll discuss further at interview to give them an explanation. And then, of course, you're going to list your employer name, supervisor name, address, city, state, zip, job duties, the reason you left, and the dates of employment. I always have a hard time with that one because, like I said, there has been a many, so I usually just do temporary and various interests and just enclose everything in that, and I explain it to them when I talk to them. 18, applicants, education, and training. You're going to give your college, university name and address. Did you receive a degree? If yes, the type of degrees received. Your high school or GED name and address as well. Did you receive a degree? Okay. And then other training like specialty schools that you may have went to or classes that you took. SunTrust University, Hospitality Institute, Axion Computer Repair, that type of thing. Please indicate any professional licenses or certifications that you hold. I certified and took a QuickBooks class. Got a certificate for that. Please list any special achievements. So this will be like graduated on honors or employee of the month or whatever. And then have you been in military service? Yes or no? Branch, specialized training. References, list any two non-relatives who would be willing to provide a reference for you. Of course, you're going to give their name, address, city, state, zip, telephone number, and relationship. Now, I'm going to tell you this. That's another problem area for me. I don't really have references. And for me, a good reference is that somebody that, and I would test my references, and I would test my employment history too. I'd call the last employer and, do a check, get somebody to check up on them, for volunteer purposes or something like that. But for your references, also, one interview I went to, what they did was they called the reference. It was a group interview. The guy called the reference right there on the spot on speakerphone so everybody could hear what that person had to say about them. Okay. 20, and like I said, for me, I really don't have any. And that interview showed that I had a person that was a roommate, and I listed it. And from what that person was saying, it almost seemed like I was like, it was just the tone of it made it seem like I was just like a hoe or something. It was just, but anyhow, so you never know. And I didn't know that person that well. I just needed a reference and they agreed to it. Number 20, please provide, so check your references, have someone call, check your employment history, all of that. Make it solid. 20, please provide any other information that you believe should be considered, including whether you are bound by any agreement, with any current employer. Certification. Of course, whenever you do your job applications, you're also always certifying that everything that you put on there is true and that you're allowing people to do background checks and reference checks and all of that. And I need to hurry up because my time is going. I'm just reading over to make sure I don't have any time. Going over my time, but I think I have already. But always in the state of Florida, I know that employment is at will, so they don't have to have a reason to fire you. You don't have to have a reason to quit. But a lot of times, for some reason, there's some immaturity regarding that. People will make up stuff, on either end. But anyways, that was my run through of the application, and I will see y'all during my next segment for the job search.